Hi everybody, Jackie here. For those of you who do not know me, this is day 13 of our 30 days that we're spending for the whole month of November, where we come together once a day, tap out our cortices, get to know the technique in a bit more depth, or a lot more depth, get to understand how we can facilitate it for ourselves, for other people, what's happening when we do this technique inside to the physiology of our body, and also what you can expect to see from this technique. So the benefits within you and also within the world around you, because as you change, then the environment changes as well. Your relationships change. So what I wanted to briefly touch on today was this concept of you facilitating the cortices technique for somebody else. And as I've mentioned in previous lives, and I think I talked about this a little bit more in depth in one of the live feeds that I did in the lead up to our 30-day reboot starting, was that I've facilitated this technique for people in various situations many times over, not just in class or for sessions, but for people who had sustained injuries or were in some kind of traumatic situation, whether it be having seizures, or they had had a car accident, or they'd witnessed something that had put them into deep shock. So what I want to do is give you a couple of tips of how you can do that safely and how you can do it effectively. The first way that you can facilitate the cortices technique for somebody else is probably one of the easiest ways that you can do it, and that's by using yourself as a surrogate. The power of intention, as I've talked about so many times before, is super important. So if it is your intention that you are going to be tapping out cortices on yourself for this person that is in front of you, or for this person that you have a picture of on your phone, or for this person that you know because you've just received a text message about has had an accident or an injury, or is very ill or something like that, then that carries, the information from that carries. It's a phenomenon called non-locality. You can check it out. I'm absolutely certain I will do a live about it sometime in the future, but I definitely won't do it this morning because it's a wonderful topic, but it's a broad topic. So we use this concept of non-locality to be able to treat somebody. So you can use yourself as a surrogate to do cortices. Say, for example, you have somebody on the ground right in front of you, they've had an injury, they've got a broken leg, there's possible injury to the spine, but you don't know. You don't want to move them. You also don't want to move the head or the neck and compromise it in any way, shape or form. Some people, keep in mind, are sensitive to touch. That's the way that they are wired. So coming in on their space and touching them can actually be quite invasive. So if you're not sure, if you ever have a question mark over any of that, just go to the default setting, which is doing cortices on yourself for somebody else. The other way that you can do it, say if it's a family member and you know them pretty well, the connection is there already, and they're not well, they've got a migraine or some kind of tummy bug that's going around, they have had a really big upsetting event that's happened and they're crying, but it's hyperventilating type of thing. You can come in and really gently, you should see my cat's here at the moment, she's hanging out with me for this, you can really gently place your hand at the base of the brain, and you want to coax them through this. So remind them, take nice big deep breaths. You have got to be the instigator for that. And also quite often, if you are taking nice big deep breaths, so exaggerated breathing through the whole technique, the person will follow suit and they'll do it without even thinking about it or without even realising. So placing your hand on the base of the head there where the occiput region is, and then you would use really nice light hands to tap over the top of the head brain, the heart brain and the gut brain. Now, if they are sensitive for whatever reason to touch or their personal space, tap over the area of the head brain. The field, the body's field and the head brain's field extends all the way out. So you can tap within the brain's field, and it has the exact same mechanism and outcome as if you were to tap on the brain directly straight onto the top of the head, making contact with the skin. And this is because of something that gets created, and they're called standing waves. So what you would do is you would go through and you would move your hand placement around to the next hand position. Just say to them, take nice big deep breaths, really encourage that. Sometimes what you're going to see is people are more belly breathers, and I use that term very loosely because it's not possible to breathe into the belly. But what you'll see is a person's belly will be rising and falling, and that can be something that they're actually, I don't want to say programmed to do, but sometimes we can get very, very good at not wanting to get in touch with things or feel things. So a person cannot have a great capacity to be able to breathe into the chest fully and deeply. And what you'll find is that sometimes people naturally just breathe more into the belly than they do into the lung area. So regardless of the reason why, if you find that your friend or your family member is breathing more into the belly area and you see very little movement on the chest there, you can either ask them to bring focus and attention to the area. So you can say, breathe really deeply into your chest area, expand it as much as you can. Or another great thing is wherever you go and place touch onto the body, it brings the brain's attention to it straight away. So you can just go and place a hand on the chest area for a moment, and it brings the brain's attention there, and quite often the brain will go, I need to breathe more into this area, and it automatically will stimulate that breathing process into the chest area. So that's really, really effective as well. So you can go ahead and then tap out the entire technique by doing that, by you exaggerated breathing and by encouraging them to do exaggerated breathing. If you missed one of my other lives where I talked about the temporal lobes, super important that they are able to tap out their own temporal lobes, right? So you can direct them to how to do that. Fingers always close together, hands runs front to back. Always sits just a little bit above the ears. You don't want them covering their ears like this because the brain doesn't sort of sit down in this area here. It's up here. Now, if you're in a situation where somebody's unconscious, they're being injured, something's going on like that, they're not going to be able to do that. And especially if you have somebody that suspected spinal injury, you're encouraging them not to move whatsoever. You will act as a surrogate and you will place your hands on your own temporal lobes and then go ahead and tap that out for them, okay? So there's a little bit of insight into how you can do it for somebody else and some different situations, especially if they're not doing so well or they've had some kind of accident. It is highly, highly effective to bring the body out of trauma, to bring it out of shock, to bring it out of stress. It is highly, highly effective to initiate a healing response in the body where it actually is able to look at, because the brain's doing the looking, right, as well as the rest of the body, but it allows the brain to be able to look at what is actually going on and the priorities for how it needs to run a repair process immediately. So slowing down and stopping severe blood loss is one of the things that I've seen happen. Fantastic. Decreasing pain levels, sensational for that as well. So try it out. Let me know how you go, if it ever comes up for you, and we'll go from there. I'm always here to answer your questions with any of that. So I'm going to go ahead and tap out my cortices for the day. First hand position goes on the occiput region of the head. Exaggerated breathing. Tapping all three brains, head brain, heart brain, gut brain. Gut brain is the area of the belly. So about an inch above the belly button. Move your hand up to the next hand position. And we'll go ahead and tap in all three brains again. to the third hand position. Remember, you're going to have probably anywhere between 3 and 5 hand positions to cover from the back of the brain around to the front of the brain. And that'll depend on the size of your hand and the size of your head. Right around to the front of the eyebrows. Let's finish off with the temporal lobe, so the side of the brain. Hands runs front to back, fingers close together, hands are nice and light. I'm going to take one of my hands away today and tap that out over my head brain, my heart brain, and my gut brain. I'm going to do that once more. All done, simple as that. Have a wonderful day, evening, wherever you are, and don't forget to keep your questions coming and also your feedback. Let me know how it's working out for you and what you're noticing from doing it every day at least once. All right, see you later, bye.